Hi, I'm Lauren Malhoit. I work at the Cisco NCMA BU, or the ACI BU. I've written a couple books. My first one came out a couple years ago, vCenter Operations Manager Essentials, and just recently as one of the authors on operating Cisco application-centric infrastructure. So I'll be talking a little bit about ACI today and how it integrates with OpenStack. So most of us are probably aware of, the operations teams, storage, networking, compute, security, kind of interlace all three of those. And we're becoming less and less siloed there now throughout the most recent years due to hyperconvergence and things like that. But we're still very separate from the dev app team, really. The team that's really architecting and deploying applications. The team that's most directly connected to the business, to delivering applications, to driving revenue. Now, delivering applications is the point of IT, right? So this language barrier that we have between ops teams, speaking in VLANs and subnets, IP addresses, terabytes of data, things like that, where the app team is kind of talking about risk and compliance and app tiers. We need to break down these language barriers here. We need tools that live in the middle of dev and ops, if you will, some DevOps tooling. And this is kind of where ACI and OpenStack come in. Now, the infrastructure people or the ops people also need to provide reliable and stable infrastructure to the application teams. And that's how, we're able to drive business and automate business. So the infrastructure needs to be scalable. We need to offer poolable resources. We need to make sure it's automated and stable. We need to provide accurate uptimes and SLAs. Now, companies like Facebook or Google, Amazon might be able to use disposable white boxes, create their own software and put it on top of that. But most companies, a majority of companies, don't have the resources to do that. So that's where, different vendors and different open source solutions need to come together and provide the tools for these companies. So here's ACI in a nutshell, and I'm going to go through this quickly. So, on one side we have the hardware part, which is the Nexus 9000 series switches, and they are usually in a spine, or always in a spine leaf architecture. In the middle there, we have the application profile. And this allows us to put similar endpoints in groups, or endpoint groups, and then put policies in between them. Now we can also have layer 4 through 7 services built into those policies as well. And this is really, kind of the way that networking is going. More and more networking engineers are seeing this as a better way to do networking. Engineers are working at higher levels to do an intent specified network rather than getting on each piece of network gear and inputting instruction sets each time. We're also able to offer the APIC, which is our Application Policy Infrastructure Controller. Most SDN solutions have a controller, and this is ours. And we're able to configure the network from here. We're able to do monitoring and automation and other such things, all while not touching the data plane. All right, so let's get into the OpenStack and ACI integration. Now, here's a bit of a marketing slide, but Cisco is very involved in the OpenStack project, specifically the Neutron project. We are a top contributor there, and we are running production solutions on OpenStack, specifically WebEx, if you will. So here's how it all kind of stacks up. Cisco ACI in the middle there, and it's able to connect all of our VMs from any different hypervisor, KVM, Hyper-V, VMware, we don't care. We're also able to connect physical servers as well here. We can offer multi-tenancy, security, microsegmentation, all of that good stuff. But ACI really only works on the networking level, right? We need something above that to do the whole infrastructure lifecycle management. And this is where OpenStack comes in. It allows us to provision VMs and really manage that application lifecycle. So, we talked a little bit about dev teams and ops teams. And why do ops teams like ACI? Well, most SDN solutions are software-based, SDN, right? But we do require the Nexus 9000 series switches with our ACI solution. This offers scalability and stability and speed as well. And we can also do the layer 2 and layer 3 networking for OpenStack within the hardware switches. The hardware switches are really built to do that rather than sending something to a compute node that's not built to forward packets. We also offer health scores and telemetry. So it's easier to find packet loss and latency within our APIC controller. We also offer layer 4 through 7 services, as I mentioned earlier, for both virtual and physical appliances. So if you need to do firewalling, load balancing, intrusion prevention systems, other networking services, we can do that all with ACI. Now, of course, the flip side. Why do dev teams like ACI? Well, dev teams don't want to know about ACLs. They don't want to know why a VM is on a certain VLAN. All they want to know is why their end user is experiencing some sort of slowness within the application. They need to know whether they should blame the networking team, really. And they can do this by seeing health scores throughout the APIC GUI, or by programming something. Everything within the ACI fabric is programmable. So we can use orchestration tools like Chef and Puppet. We can use REST APIs. We can do Python scripting, whatever, to not only configure the network, but also scrape data so that we get a better view of what's going on within the network. And of course, we still offer service chaining within the application here too. So there's two ways to integrate OpenStack with ACI. And the first way is to do it through the Neutron or ML2 APIC driver. And the second way is to do it through group-based policy driver. Now the Neutron or ML2 driver is available for Icehouse and up. And there's still kind of a conversion that needs to go on. So we have our OpenStack networking Neutron, and then we have our ACI networking. And we have kind of a legacy, a layer 2 network and a layer 3 router over here in OpenStack. And then we have our policies and endpoint groups over here in ACI. And I'll go through a demo of that in a minute or two to show you how that kind of works. But there's still that kind of conversion that goes on. So recently, as of Juno actually, we have the group-based policy controller, or plugin really. Now this actually puts in a tab in your OpenStack GUI that says policies, and it's got the notion of groups, just like we do in ACI with endpoint groups. It's got the notion of reusable rule sets, just like we do with policies and contracts within ACI. So we have less of that conversion factor. All right, so let's bring it to the demo then. Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the APIC GUI. As you can see, I have my health scores there, my system health, and then for various components, you can see the health score for each component. And of course, the familiar OpenStack GUI. And I'm going to click on projects here to show you that I have 4 projects currently within my OpenStack GUI. And I'll click on users, and I have 5 users there. So then I'm going to do this all through scripting. And these scripts just make calls to the OpenStack API, and then from OpenStack we actually make calls into the APIC. So this script is running to create a project essentially and create a user for that project. So as you can see, it's assigning IDs, it's assigning usernames, etc. And we'll go back into the OpenStack GUI then. And if I refresh to my project screen, the second one down is the dcloud project now. And that just got created through that script. If I click on my users, I see the demo user in there now. And again, that got created through the script. I can then click on my demo user and see that the primary project is dcloud. All right, that's all very exciting. It doesn't show me anything ACI, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to run my second script now. And this script is going to add 2 networks to OpenStack. And again, I assign all my properties. I assign, my net mask and my network IP and all of that good stuff. And then we'll go back to my OpenStack GUI. And switch to the dcloud project from the default admin. And now I'm able to dive into that a little more, go into project, and click on networks. And I can now see my 2 networks listed, dcloud net 1 and dcloud net 2. If I click on my network topology, I can see a graphical portrayal of my 2 networks that are now created. So let's go into the APIC. We're going to click on tenants, and then we're going to click on the dcloud tenant. Now this tenant got created when I created the project within OpenStack, so that's all automatic. I'm going to click on application profiles, and then click on application EPGs or endpoint groups. And here I will see my two EPGs got created, so dcloud net 1 and dcloud net 2. So there's a direct correlation between the networks within OpenStack and the EPGs within ACI. So now I'm running my third script, and this is what creates a cloud router within OpenStack, right? We need that layer 3 connectivity to make those two networks work together. So that's run. I'll go back to my OpenStack GUI. And you can see within the network topology, I have a router now, or cloud router, in between those two networks. And click on routers and see it listed there as well. Now we'll go back to the APIC. And we'll see, remember before we had those two EPGs, but they're just out there in the ether. There's nothing in between them. So when I refresh this page, go back to my EPGs, I now have a contract in between them, or a policy, if you will. And this contract is directly correlated to the router within OpenStack. It's what allows or denies traffic. It's where I can put layer 4 through 7 services and other such things. Now my last task here will be to create VMs. So I'm going to create 3 VMs, put 2 on one network, 1 on the other. Again, I assign all the properties via the script. And I go back into my OpenStack GUI, and I can see my VMs within the network topology, as we'll see in just a second. And there they are. If I go to compute now, and then click on instances, I'll see my 3 VMs. Now I've assigned this router, this contract, so that I can have intra-EPG communication, but not inter right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get in the console. And you can see that I can ping the other VM within my EPG or within my OpenStack network, which is actually by default within ACI. So by default within ACI, we always have intra-EPG communication. And then if I wanted to allow inter-EPG communication, I would change the router or change the contract within ACI. As you can see, I can't ping. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And here is, some ways to try the group-based policy driver if you're looking for more information on that. And just some more Cisco, OpenStack, ACI integration white papers and other such things. So that's it. Thank you very much.